Hey, baby, I want to know if you be my girl. Hi, folks, this is Bruce Chanel. It doesn't matter where you're from, you're going to love listening to iconfetch.com.
Welcome to Icon Fetch, the web's premier music interview show. Now, here's your host, Tony Peters.
Welcome to Icon Fetch. I am Tony Peters, and my guest this time, the Human Beinz, emerged from Youngstown, Ohio in 1968, scoring a top 10 single with Nobody But Me. The group is signed to Capitol Records for a pair of albums before calling it quits, and the band has reformed several times since then. Ting Markulin is a surviving member. He played rhythm guitar for the band. We welcome Ting Markulin to the show. How are you, man?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. Now, I want to kind of to go back here for a minute. Let's start from the beginning. You guys started in Youngstown, Ohio. What kind of a scene was going on? Were you like the only band in Youngstown, or were there a bunch of bands at the same time?
There were so many bands. I couldn't name them all if I wanted to, but and there were so many clubs to play in the mid '60s. Youngstown, Ohio, was a mill town. All the mills were going at that time, and there were just club after club after club, and so many bands, and all the bands were playing. So it was a good scene for musicians.
Nice. Now, you guys were known originally as the Premiers. Now, I understand that you changed your name. Was that because there was another band that had a song called Farmer John, or was there another reason? Well,
no, the reason was a fellow in our town was going to open a new club, and this other club he had was very small, and we were packing it so much he wanted to open a bigger club, but he wanted us to have more of a British feel, because everything at that time was going British. So he wanted us to change the name. He said the Premiers was dated. It was, 50s and early 60s. He said, come up with something that's catchy, that's now. He said, that way I'll use you guys all the time. So we sat around and we came up with 50 million different animals and whatever, cars, whatever you can think of. And somebody just turned around and said, I don't know what to do or what to say because we're just human beings. And that was it. We jumped on it. We said, yeah, wow, human beings. And then our bass player said, why don't we put a Z on the end of it instead of a F? So we were actually the Human Beinz with the G when we changed the name.
Nice.
Human Beinz.
Nice. Now, since when you guys became the Human Beinz, how soon before you started actually recording some demos and kind of thing? And did you have a local studio that you guys worked in?
There was a local studio. We didn't use it. We used, there was a studio in Pittsburgh called Gateway Studios. And then there was a studio in Cleveland called Cleveland Recording, which is where we eventually ended up doing most of the things that we did. We liked Cleveland Recording very much.
Okay. What was interesting, I noticed that you guys had a knack for picking some of these songs that other people ended up taking and making them hits. Like, from what I understand, you guys actually recorded Gloria from them with Van Morrison. Before it became kind of a big hit for Shadows of Night. Is that right?
Yes, that's true. We did that. We also did Pied Piper.
Follow me, I'm the Pied Piper. Follow me, I'm the Pied Piper.
We couldn't get anybody to listen to us. We had people that wanted to back us, but they had these original tunes that they had written that were so bad we couldn't do them. And we would say, look, let us do this in the studio and promote it, and this will be a hit. And we just couldn't get anybody to believe in us at that time period.
Now, I noticed the early recordings that you guys put out, I see a couple of labels. There was one called Gateway Records. Was that related to the studio in Pittsburgh then?
Yes. That's a horrible occasion that happened to us. We recorded at Gateway. We recorded 4 songs, and they were Gloria, My Generation, Pied Piper, and Times They Are Changing. And we did it on our own. We paid for it. We bought like 1,000 copies, to distribute ourselves. We never gave Gateway permission to sell any of our music. Well, they turned around, and after Nobody But Me was a hit, they released an album with those 4 songs on it. You may have seen it. It was us and a group called the Mammals.
Right. Yeah, that was kind of odd because it didn't really have you guys didn't have anything to do with each other. The Mammals were a band that didn't even make it, and here you guys are. And but it did have, from what I understand, wasn't there an early version of Nobody But Me on there too? Is that possible?
No.
Okay.
That was the Mammals.
Okay, that was the Mammals. Really? Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
That's how Gateway got around being able to put Nobody But Me on the album cover. But it didn't say Nobody But Me by the Human Beinz.
See, even I was confused. All right, okay. Well, that's it. Yeah. All right, so you guys are putting out some singles, and not a whole lot is happening. How did the whole Capitol deal come about then?
Okay. We were really big in our area. We already were drawing crowds that nobody ever imagined before. Club owners were going crazy. I was booked a year in advance, and I had club owners calling me saying they wanted me like 3 weeks from now, and I was like, I'm sorry, but maybe next year. So it was just going wild. Well, we had a friend that worked at a record store, and it was called Plaza Records in Boardman, which is a suburb of Youngstown. Well, every time the Capitol rep would come in, he would start, chirping in his ear about it. He had to come and see this band. Well, he just kept, he kept blowing them off and said, yeah, okay, one day. Well, one day he was at the store, and my friend, his name was George, he called me, and he said, hey, he's up here right now, get up here. So I ran up to the record store and kind of cornered him. And I said, we're playing, at this club this Thursday night. Can you make it? And he said, yeah, I'll be there. So he came, and he said, I'm going to call Capitol Tower in Hollywood and tell them that they should sign you. Well, then they sent a talent scout out to see us. And he came to one of our engagements and watched us play and perform. And he signed us that night.
Wow.
We went in the back. We went in the back of this bar into this kind of greasy old dirty kitchen, and he's talking to us. And he said, yeah, he says, I'm going to sign you guys. He said, I just signed a group yesterday in Tucson called the Stone Ponies.
Huh.
He said, and I'm signing you guys tonight.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was early Linda Ronstadt there too. Wow.
Yeah.
That's wow.
Yeah. So actually, our friend got us the break that we didn't know what to do or how to get anybody interested in us, and our friend did it with this Capitol rep that came into the store all the time.
Wow. Now, what's interesting is another band from that kind of area, from the Cleveland area, the Outsiders, were also signed to Capitol, but that had nothing to do with you guys then, huh?
No. And that became the Cleveland Recording became the premier studio in the state of Ohio. All the bands were going there to record. I would be up there. I would run into the Music Explosion, the Outsiders, the Fruit Gum Company, I can't. Any hits from any bands in Ohio back at that time period were done at Cleveland Recording. We were all the Lemon Pipers, Green Tambourine.
Right. Yeah.
All of them. Yeah, we were all up there at Cleveland Recording.
Nice. Now, so you signed the deal with Capitol. And how old would you guys have been? Were you still in high school or a little bit after that then?
Oh no, I was already in my 20s. I think I was about. Well, let's see. That was actually, we signed in '67, so I was 22 already.
All right. So you signed the deal with Capitol. Then do they say, okay? I mean, each one of these deals is different as far as then what you do as far as going into the studio. Did they give you the freedom to be able to say, well, hey, we want to go back to Cleveland recording studios, and they were cool with that, or?
Yes, actually, now the talent scout that signed us became our producer. His name was Lex Diaz-Levedo.
Okay.
And he was at the time working, as a talent scout and producer for Capitol. So he said that he was going to be our producer, and we should pick a studio somewhere in our area that we really felt was a good studio. And we said, yeah, Cleveland Recording.
Okay.
And so he was all fine with that. He would fly in from L.A. and spend a couple weeks with us in the studio.
Well, what's interesting about that is a lot of bands that sign a big major deal, they go to some studio that's foreign to them, and that sometimes can kind of be a disaster. But here you guys are going back to the same studio that you did some of the other songs in, so you were already kind of comfortable with it, right?
Right, and especially with the engineer. He was great. I mean, he owned the studio, but he was just the kindest man. I mean, he would try anything. He would do anything we wanted, and it was just wonderful working up there with him.
Do you remember his name?
Yes, his name was Ken Hammond.
Okay, all right, nice.
He passed away, but I think his son's still running the studio up there.
Okay,
but
nice.
He was great guy.
Nice. All right, so let's talk. You guys are in the studio, and I imagine you're assembling kind of what you think is going to be what you think is a hit. So you guys walk in, but initially nobody but me was not necessarily on your radar. You had something else in mind, is that right?
Yes, we did a song that got a lot of good response live. It was called "You Don't Love Me." It was a Sonny and Cher tune, off one of their albums. We were basically a cover band. We didn't really come up with a lot of original material. So this song was good live, and it was kind of like you don't love me, yes I know, and the guitars went da 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 da, and we thought it was a really cool lick. So we thought, wow, this is going to really sound good when we record it. Well, we were wrong.
Well, that's kind of crazy. You go into the studio thinking, okay, this is going to be our hit single, and suddenly, now what do you do? Now you're probably, you got maybe sweaty palms going on now, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, Alex could tell we were getting nervous because we spent almost 4 hours trying to make this song, click, and I mean, it just wasn't happening. It just didn't have any of that live feel. So it would have bombed. So Lex told us, he called us into the control booth, and he goes, look, he said, why don't you guys go back out there and just play something that you like to jam on, that just release some of the tension and relax and go in there and have a good time. So we said, okay. So we walked back in the studio, and I said, why don't we do Nobody But Me? And at the time, it was another huge song for us live, and it was actually about 7 minutes long because we did a big, at the time, what they called a freak out in the middle of it. We did this big, all these crazy noises and jams and guitar leads and everything, and so we went in and did that. And when we got done, he clicked on the mic and said, "That's it. That's the song. That's the song you need to record." So, and what happened was, if you listen to the Isley Brothers version, they've got the old dances on there, the twist, the mashed potatoes, and I had changed the names of the dances to what was popular at that time.
Nobody can do the shing like I do. Nobody can do the hey like I do. Nobody can do like I do. Nobody can do like I do.
Like the boogaloo,
And,
right?
Yeah, right. Well, see, we didn't really say it like that, but he had us like kind of shout it out on, when we were recording it. And first thing he did when he walked into the studio, and said he came in there and he goes, "Yeah, we got to get rolling on this right now." He goes, but he says, "We got one problem." We said, "What's that?" He said, "We got to make the song a little over 2 minutes long instead of 7.
Wow.
So we cut the whole middle out, and we didn't, they didn't want us to do it that way. So we never actually, how you can have an album cut that's long, and we didn't really know anything about that. So we just threw it away, and just did that little, I don't know what it is, this little over 2 minute version of Nobody But Me.
Now what's interesting about the start of Nobody But Me, the album version has like a guitar strum, and then you hear the feedback. But on the single version, it just cuts in, and that really catches your ear because it just kind of catches it mid-feedback. Whose idea was it to do that?
Well, that was one of the things we did before we got in the studio. I mean, I had a Rickenbacker. That was really a popular guitar back then. But I mean, I had that, and it would feed back with that note and that sound into my amplifier. So when we started the song, just jamming, I hit that note and stuck my guitar in the speaker, and it just and when we recorded it, because Lex said he wanted to keep that in the beginning, he thought that was a really cool intro, and he said, "But I want to cut off where you hit the string, so you don't hear the book, you know what I mean? How it builds."
Right.
He said he just wanted to hear it grab you, bam, there it is.
Right.
So,
right.
He was the boss. So we didn't know all that much in the studio, so we were really looking to him for direction, and that's the way he wanted to do it. I actually liked hearing the pluck and then the feedback coming and building. And I have to be honest with you, I stole it from the Beatles. I Feel Fine.
Right. Hey, look, I mean, a lot of ideas are great when they're borrowed,
Well, yeah. I have to be honest about that. I always wanted to do that. And so when I had a chance to get some feedback going, I always tried that in intros and stuff. Right. And they liked that on Nobody But Me, but that's where it came from.
Nice. All right, so you record Nobody But Me. Was that like you just did the single, maybe do a B-side, and you were done, and then you had a session later, or did you end up doing sessions for the album around the same time, too?
No, we did the single because they wanted to see if it would catch on before they even thought about doing an album. So what happened was we had just finished up Nobody But Me, and our producer came in and he goes, "Well," he said, "let me explain something to you." He said, when you have a 45 record, he said, whatever it sells, he says, you got to remember the song on the backside sells the same as the song on the front side. He said, so why don't you write a song and put it on the other side and you'll get more royalties. So we said, well, we never wrote a song before. He said, well, come up with something. So we went back to the hotel and sat down and for, I don't know, must have been into the wee hours of the morning, not really coming up with much. Our lead guitar player, Dick Billy, he started playing this really strange G chord to an F, and it was really a beautiful sound, you know. So we kind of went with that, and I came up with the lyrics, one verse. The whole song was one verse. The song was called Sueño. I don't know if you saw that on the album.
Right. Yep. So that was the B-side, was Sueño. All right.
The breeze, the beach, and swaying trees. Their birds all singing sweetly to me.
And you guys wrote that, and you got some royalties. Because, you know, obviously with Nobody But Me, that was an Isley Brothers song or whatever. Like, you know, you're not getting the same amount of royalties or whatever for that because you didn't write it. So, yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
So
Yeah, so we got it for the backside.
nice. Okay. All right. So you this becomes a hit, and then is this when the fast forward? Does this happen right away? Was it one of those things where you kind of got a chance to sort of watch it climb, and it was kind of a slow climb and slow success kind of thing? How did the single work then?
Well, yeah, that's what happened. The song was a regional hit, region after region after region. So, I mean, it wouldn't go away. You know, we would travel to one section of the country, you know, say the East Coast, and then it would move over to, you know, like Michigan and the Midwest, and it just kept moving around. And we, as these regions, you know, it became popular in these regions, then the booking agencies would call us there because, you know, we were like one of the top requested songs. So we never, you know, while Nobody But Me was really huge, we never realized it on a national scale like a lot of hits. It just kept, because it was released in September of '67, and most people think it was a hit in '68. So it traveled through the fall and into the winter and into the spring of '68, and it was still popular. And, you know, we're like scratching our heads going, wow, you know, I mean, the song really was good to us. It lasted a long time. Usually hits don't last that long, maybe 8 weeks, something like that, and something new is popping up.
Right. So it definitely hit kind of region to region. It was interesting. I interviewed Tommy James a couple of times, and he talked about how some of his hits kind of did that, where it would be popular on one end of the country, and then it would be popular on another end of the country. And we tend to go, oh, well, that song went to number 3 or whatever. And he goes, well, he's like, that's kind of half the story. It was in number 1 on half of the country, but it wasn't number 1. You know, he's just, some of those, the way we do chart data is some kind, it's not really the whole picture a lot of times of what was really going on. So. Right.
Yeah. Well, see, Capitol didn't promote us at all.
What?
They just released the record. They released it. And the DJs kind of picked up on it. That's really where we lucked out. I mean, they would play it, and then they were getting requests for it, and they started playing it. Capitol didn't do any promo on the 45.
That doesn't make any sense, huh? All right. Well, so what? You know what? I had also heard where there were some like black stations that were playing it and didn't realize that this wasn't the Isley Brothers or whatever kind of thing.
Well, they thought we were like a black soul, you know, kind of like a psychedelic soul group, like the Chambers Brothers or something like that.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And yeah, we played a couple of venues where they thought we would play soul music, basically, and it was long, rough nights.
Oh, man. So, I mean, did you guys, as a result of Nobody But Me, did you guys get to play, like, I don't know, Hullabaloo or Shindig or something like, did you do any national television?
No. What happened was we were scheduled to do a bunch of TV shows, and that was when they had a strike. All the cameramen and all that stuff across the nation, they all went on strike. So all these TV stations were doing reruns and stuff like that.
Wow.
And, so we got canceled. I was interviewed by Dick Clark over the phone, and that was about as far as we got.
Huh.
Yeah, it was, you know, we, to this day, there are no videos of us except that one I put on online, which is not synchronized because it was an old 8mm film. I don't know if you've seen it.
Yeah, there's something that looks like you're playing on TV.
That's right. I had a friend that went to Vietnam, and his dad, he loved us, so his dad put the 8mm camera in front of the TV when we were going to be on a Cleveland rock show called Upbeat, and he filmed it on the TV.
This is pre VCR, right?
Yes, and so there was no sound. So when the kid years later, he said, "Hey, I've got this 8mm film. Would you like a copy of it?" I said, "Sure." So he got it, and when I moved to Florida about 10 years ago, I met a guy that edited and did all kinds of things like that. And I asked him if he could put it on a DVD, and he said, "Yeah." He said, "Give me some." He said, "Give me the song." He said, and I gave him a bunch of pictures beside the 45, and he put that together for me.
Nice. So that's why it looks like a camera filming a TV, because it really is a camera filming a TV.
Exactly.
That's great. That's great. Huh. There you go. Ting Markulin of the Human Beinz, and that's part one of our interview. We'll continue to talk to him. And interesting stuff. Now that you have the one hit, now they have to try to follow it up. What happened to them there? Also, they toured Japan, and a crazy, crazy story with that. They toured with the Beach Boys and met a very scary person along the way. Those will all be coming up in our continued conversation with Ting Markulin of the Human Beinz. Also on the way, I had a chance to sit down with another one-hit wonder. Bruce Chanel had a massive hit with Hey, Hey, Baby. Well, Bruce got to tour and play with the Beatles for a little while, and Delbert McClinton was his harmonica player, and Bruce went on to write several country hits as well. So interesting stuff coming up with Bruce Chanel as well. Until next time, I'm Tony Peters. Thanks for listening.
You've been listening to Icon Fetch with Tony Peters. Want more great interviews? Head over to iconfetch.com. There, you'll find every interview we've ever done, plus CD reviews, This Day in Music, and a random album of the day. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter. Who is Tony going to interview next? It could be you. Send what you've got to Tony Peters. Icon Fetch, P.O. Box 292134, Dayton, Ohio 45429. Or email Tony at host@iconfetch.com. Until next time, this is Joe Kelly. Have a great day.